What is a mystical experience? Well, perhaps you've had one as a product of a great acid trip or a psilocybin adventure. Or perhaps you've entered such a deep state of meditation that the feeling of being separate has melted away and you've entered integrated consciousness or samadhi. However, you've gotten there, this mystical experience is characterized by a movement, a transformation from fear to love, from the ego or the little self to the higher self, from this sensation that you are a separate individual living in a separate external universe to the sensation of being integrated into a mutually interdependent web of life where you feel part of something greater. Now, the default position for humans is the ego, is suffering. And let me explain why this is. Because we are pre-programmed by our God-given sensory instruments to feel separate. We're expelled from the womb out into the cruel world, and our eyes begin to focus, and we begin to develop these auditory capabilities, and we begin to label everything in the foreground of our visual field. And this starts in a very prosaic and innocuous fashion. There's a chair, and there's a piano, and well, there's my mom. And then as you grow older, this gets a good deal more thorny and complex. Well, there's a person with a different sexual orientation or a different skin color, or there's a person that holds a more esteemed position in society or has more wealth or more gadgets and trinkets. And inherent in the labeling of the external world is a self-labeling. We label ourselves, and that is what the ego is. It is the symbol that we give ourselves, and it tells us that we are what we have or what we do or our role in society or what other people think of us. And it puts us into a place of constant craving and striving and comparison, because we look around at the external world and we want this, and we think to ourselves, if only and only if I could get that car or that house or that hot dude with the man bun or that role in that rom-com, well, then I'll be happy. But we know that as soon as we attain um, that thing, there's another shiny object that appears on the horizon. And there we go, once again, trudging along the hedonic treadmill, always in comparison. And they say comparison is the invisible thief of joy, right? And even when you've accrued all these things, you're not happy because you're clinging to them. I mean, the rich folks aren't that happy either, I'll say. I know plenty of them that are just living in great fear of losing what they have, but also craving what they don't have. And, this is the default condition of humanity, to be suffering, to be living in the ego. And this is why spiritual experiences are so important. Mystical experiences are absolutely essential to move from a place of suffering to a place of joy. And when you feel interconnected, when you feel part of something greater than yourself, there is a certain redolence to it. There's a signature. There are characteristics to it. Compassion. You begin to identify other people's suffering as your own. Have you ever spontaneously cried, not for anything that might be afflicting yourself, but only because someone else is afflicted? That is karuna. That is a feeling of connectedness, or mudita, joy for someone else's joy. Just to have a feeling of exuberance for the achievement of somebody else and not be envious or jealous of that. That is an example of interconnectedness, of a feeling of integrated consciousness that emerges from a mystical experience. So, how do we move then from the little self, the ego, to the higher self, this place where there is no difference between what it is like to be you and the world? There is just the world. How do we do that? Well, again, you can access this transformation through external agents like a psilocybin trip, and that could provide you a peak experience of some sort. But day to day, by cultivating a meditation practice, by transcending your senses and focusing on yourself as part of something bigger, you begin to transform the feeling. And over time, that practice begins to punctuate your quotidian life. You inhabit a certain state of being where you experience compassion, karuna, mudita, metta, the bringing forth of loving kindness into the world around you, where love ceases to be something taken, but something given, where you feel effervescent and giving and radiant. Through a consistent meditation practice, that feeling begins to punctuate your life, and the world of the 10,000 things becomes a whole lot lighter. So that is the best definition I can provide for mysticism, the movement from the little self to the higher self.